Hello, friends. Day 20, 75 Refined. The quote of the day comes from Pablo Picasso. Action is the foundational key to all success. Get moving. Get out there. All right, let's look at our reading today. We are in 1 Samuel, chapters 9 through 19. A lot happened here. I know I kind of say that a lot because we're reading a lot, so there's a lot happening. But let's get into what's going on here. So first we have Israel asking for a king, and they're about to get one. So Saul comes from the tribe of Benjamin. He looks the part. All right, and it says here in verse 2 of chapter 9, there was no one more impressive among the Israelites than he. He was tall, he was visibly commanding, he was everything the people wanted. And then it says, this is Saul speaking, am I not a Benjamite from the smallest of the tribes of Israel? And this is a tribe that was nearly wiped out at the end of Judges, if we remember reading that, reduced to just 600 men. And now they're producing Israel's first king. But Jacob already said that the scepter will not depart from Judah. And Saul from Benjamin is what the people demanded, but Judah is where the kingship is headed, not just because of King David, which comes from the line of Judah, but also Christ, who comes from that line as well. We see a little bit of an echo here from Judges to Samuel when we see Gideon. So Gideon said in Judges 6:15, that if you hear a hacking in the background, that's my dog, which is fun. My clan is the weakest. And Saul said, I am from the smallest tribe. So both were from small tribes. They were both initially hesitant, but they were both empowered by the Spirit. Judges 6:34, the Spirit of the Lord enveloped Gideon. In 1 Samuel 10:10, the Spirit of God came powerfully on him. Both had early victories, both start strong, and also both of them hide at first. We remember that Gideon was in the winepress and Saul was among the supplies. Here's where it's different though, okay? Gideon fears his inadequacy and Saul fears losing control. Gideon asks for confirmation. Saul overrides instructions that he's explicitly given. In chapter 13, we see some impatience. Saul forces a sacrifice. This was not his role. All right, and in chapter 13, verses 13 through 14, it says, you have been foolish. The Lord has found a man after his own heart. So now this is where that mantle, if you will, of being the king is being removed from Saul. Even though he's going to continue being king, he is no longer appointed by king or anointed as king by the Lord. This is huge. I wrote here, leadership is not sustained by the gifting, but it's sustained by the obedience. You got to be obedient to the word of the Lord. 1 Samuel 15, this is where there's partial obedience, okay? Saul spares King Agag, and he keeps the best of the livestock. And then he says, I've obeyed the Lord. Samuel replies, to obey is better than sacrifice. 15:23, because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he has rejected you as king. Saul's problem is not weakness. He was a strong guy. He was head and shoulders above the rest. It was his obedience. He thought he knew what was best. That's what it came down to. Well, I know better because this is what a king should do, right? A king should keep the other king as like a hostage or as a trophy, and we should get the best of the land. Except for when you're told explicitly to eradicate the Amalekites. Now we get a shift to David from Judah. In 16:7, it says, humans see what is visible, but the Lord sees the heart. Saul was chosen for his stature. David is chosen for his heart. Key distinction there. David is from Judah. And again, that's tied to that scepter back in Genesis 49. Then it says the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully on David. The Spirit of the Lord, however, left Saul. We see that in verses 13 and 14 in chapter 16. The throne is moving and Benjamin's king starts to decline and Judah's king starts to rise. David and Goliath. I love this because we always hear about these underdog stories. Oh, it's a true David and Goliath story, David and Goliath. And they always talk about how this underdog is going to rise up and beat Goliath. And the U.S. men's hockey team, it was a David and Goliath story. U.S. men's team facing the Canadians. It's David and Goliath. And, well, the fact of the matter is, the David and Goliath story isn't even a David and Goliath story. David was never the underdog. One, he was empowered by God. That's the first thing, so write that down. But two, he was basically a sniper with the sling. You have to remember, in the ancient Near East, the slings was basically the snipers of the military. They could circumcise a gnat with the slingshot. So they were very, very precise. He would go after lions and bears. He has legitimate combat experience, maybe not in a war, but protecting the sheep. In Judges 20:16, it says that the Benjamites who could hit a hare and not miss, these were with the slings. So again, they were the snipers. It's very, very important. And going down to 1745, I come against you in the name of the Lord's armies. This is what David says. So he's coming against Saul in the name of the Lord of armies, rather. Excuse me. This isn't small versus big. This is the Lord versus a nation. Saul sees a giant, and David sees a defiant Philistine opposing the living God, who is this uncircumcised Philistine. David was never the underdog. He was never underestimated. By chapter 18, we see Saul throwing spears at David. The man who once hid among the supplies is now hunting the anointed king. Gideon drifted after victory. Saul collapses under insecurity. So here's the big pattern. Gideon and Saul both show us something. You can be small and chosen. You can be empowered by the Spirit. You can win early victories. But if you mishandle the word, everything can unravel. Saul represents what Israel wanted, but David represents what God promised. He's the true promised king. Well, that's Christ, of course, but this is representation of that. But even David's going to fail, and we're going to see that coming up in the not-too-distant future once he gets the throne. Even David fails, but again, it's his heart that's so different. The reason why he's restored and Saul isn't is a lot of it is because of the pride and the arrogance. And David wrote Psalm 51. If you want to see a true prayer of repentance, look at Psalm 51. So here are the threads that we're looking for. So Saul shows the outward strength with obedience. Gideon shows the dependence, but incomplete reform. David shows courage, skill, and covenant loyalty. But only one king will perfectly obey, never lose a spirit, never rule from insecurity, never partially obey. The scepter tied to Judah points forward. The Lion of Judah, the true and better king. Once again, if we're looking for that thread, who is it? It's the coming Messiah. It is Christ. As we close this out, so the sun rises from Benjamin, but David rises from Judah. The contrast sharpens, the throne shifts, and once again, the issue is not about the size of the person, the stature of the man. It's about the heart. God sees the heart, because the Lord does not see what man sees. So again, a lot happened there in those few chapters. We see the rise and fall of King Saul. We will continue to see that more as 1 Samuel progresses, as David is on the run. We see this wonderful friendship between David and Jonathan, and we're going to see David really come into his own as he eventually becomes anointed as king. So stick with it. We had a great question on the last video. If you have a question about what you've read or something that you're wrestling with in the scriptures, leave it in the comments below. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to make sure you're subscribed, share, ring the bell, do all of the different things. And we will see you tomorrow, day 21. Talk to you soon. Bye.